Saint Teresa saw what happens when married couples live like strangers under one roof. Have you ever wondered what happens to a marriage when husband and wife stop being husband and wife? When they share a roof but not a life? When they sleep in the same house but live in two separate worlds? Throughout history, the Church has witnessed thousands of marriages that look perfect from the outside but are hollow on the inside. Couples who fulfill their duties in public but avoid each other in private. Partners who speak politely but never speak truth. Marriages that survive but never really live. Within this quiet tragedy lies a spiritual danger few people recognize. Because when love dies in a marriage, something else moves into the empty space. And Saint Teresa of Ávila saw exactly what that something was. Teresa was born in Ávila, Spain, on March 28, 1515. She entered the Carmelite monastery of the Incarnation in 1535 at age 20. For decades, she reformed convents across Spain, founding 17 monasteries between 1562 and 1582. But alongside her work as a reformer, God gave her another gift. She could see into the spiritual realm. She saw angels and demons. She saw souls in purgatory. She saw the state of people's hearts even when they hid it from everyone else. And in chapter 32 of her book, The Interior Castle, written in 1577 under direct order from her confessor, Father Jerome Gratian, she recorded something that shocked even her. She saw what happens inside a home where marriage has become a performance instead of a union. If you value documented history from primary sources like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources directly from Teresa's own writings, preserved in the Biblioteca Nacional de España in Madrid, specifically the original manuscript of Las Moradas, completed between June 2nd and November 29th, 1577, and verified against Father Silverio de Santa Teresa's critical edition published by Editorial de Espiritualidad in 1951, which includes marginal notes from Teresa's own hand and corrections made during her lifetime. These aren't interpretations. These are her exact words. Now back to the information. Teresa wrote that one evening in Toledo while praying in the chapel of San Jose Convent, which she had founded in 1569. She received a vision. She saw a married couple she knew. They lived in the same city. They attended Mass together every Sunday at the Cathedral of Toledo. They had been married for 14 years. They had 5 children. From the outside, everything looked normal. But Teresa saw what no one else could see. She saw their home as God saw it. She writes in her own hand, "I saw a house divided. 2 souls living under one roof but inhabiting 2 separate kingdoms. The husband moved through his rooms, the wife moved through hers. They crossed paths like travelers at an inn who nod but never speak. I saw that they had not truly spoken in 3 years. They discussed meals, they discussed children, they discussed debts, but they never discussed their hearts." Teresa paused in her writing. She made a note in the margin. She wrote, "This is not rare. This is common." She continued, "I understood that this silence was not peace, it was a slow death. Each day they chose not to fight, they also chose not to love. Each day they kept the peace, they also kept their distance. And into that distance something crept. Teresa saw it clearly. Between the husband and wife, invisible to human eyes but plain in the spiritual realm, stood a figure, dark, patient, watching." She writes, "I saw a demon assigned to that house. Not a demon of rage or violence, a demon of coldness. His work was not to make them fight. His work was to make them forget. To forget why they married. To forget what they promised. To forget that they are one flesh before God." The demon did not need to attack. He only needed to whisper. And Teresa heard the whispers. To the husband, the demon whispered, "She does not understand you. She never has. You are better off in silence. Speak, and she will only disappoint you again." To the wife, the demon whispered, "He does not see you. He does not value you. You are safer behind walls. Open your heart, and he will only wound you again." Year after year, the demon whispered, and year after year the distance grew. Teresa writes, "I saw that they had stopped eating meals together except when guests visited. The husband ate early before work. The wife ate late after the children slept. They told themselves this was practical, but I understood it was avoidance. I saw that they had stopped sharing their bed except when duty required it. They told themselves they were tired. They told themselves sleep was more important, but I understood it was rejection. I saw that they had stopped praying together. They told themselves they prayed privately. They told themselves God heard them separately just as well. But I understood that Satan fears nothing more than a husband and wife who kneel together before the cross. Then Teresa saw something that terrified her. She saw the future, if nothing changed." She writes, "The Lord showed me 2 paths ahead of this couple. In the first path, they continued as they were. The years passed. The children grew. The house stayed quiet. They grew old together, but alone. And on the day they died, I saw their souls rise, and they looked at each other as if meeting a stranger. They had lived 50 years under one roof, but had remained unknown to each other. They had kept the vows in letter, but not in spirit. And though they were not condemned, I saw that their place in heaven was not together. They had spent their lives apart by choice. Heaven honored that choice. Teresa stopped writing. She wept. Then she recorded the second path. She writes, "In the second path, one of them broke. One of them chose courage over comfort. I saw that it was the wife. On a Tuesday morning in spring, after 13 years of silence, she walked into the room where her husband sat, and she said 6 words. 'I cannot live like this anymore.' He looked up, startled, afraid. She continued, 'We are strangers. We are married, but we are strangers. This is not what I promised God when I took your hand. This is not the life Christ died to give us. I am lonely, and you are lonely, and we are lonely together, and this is a lie.' Teresa writes, 'I saw the husband's face. For the first time in years, he felt something. Fear, shame, relief. He did not speak immediately, but he did not walk away. That night they prayed together for the first time in 6 years. They did not know what to say to God. They did not know what to say to each other, but they knelt in the same room, and the demon that had stood between them for so long could no longer stand the light.' Teresa writes, 'I saw him flee, not because they fought him with great spiritual warfare, but because they fought him with presence, with honesty, with the simple act of being in the same space with open hearts before God.' This vision shook Teresa so deeply that she wrote about it to several of her spiritual daughters. In a letter dated February 9th, 1578, preserved in the collection Cartas de Santa Teresa de Jesus, she wrote to Maria de San Jose, 'My daughter, if you counsel married women, tell them this. The greatest danger to marriage is not fighting, it is avoiding. Satan does not need to make you hate each other. He only needs to make you ignore each other. A marriage can survive many storms, but it cannot survive indifference.' She wrote to another prioress in March of the same year, 'I have seen couples who pray the rosary daily but never speak about their true struggles. I have seen couples who attend daily mass but live as if they are single. Do not let piety become a substitute for intimacy. God gave marriage for union, not for the appearance of union.' But Teresa went further. She saw a pattern. The demon of indifference did not work alone. In chapter 33 of The Interior Castle, she writes, 'After that vision, the Lord showed me many other homes. I began to see that this demon operates with a strategy. He does not attack suddenly. He attacks slowly. He uses time. He uses tiredness. He uses disappointment. First, he makes you believe that peace is the same as silence. You stop fighting, and he whispers that this is maturity. But it is not maturity. It is surrender. Second, he makes you believe that distance is the same as respect. You stop asking difficult questions, and he whispers that this is kindness, but it is not kindness, it is fear. Third, he makes you believe that independence is the same as strength. You stop needing each other, and he whispers that this is growth, but it is not growth, it is isolation. Teresa saw this pattern repeat in home after home, and she saw the results. Children growing up in houses where parents lived like roommates. Children who learned that marriage is a duty, not a joy. Children who watched their parents and decided love was not real. Teresa writes, "The demon of indifference does not just destroy marriages. He destroys the faith of the next generation. Because children watch, and what they see at home teaches them more than what they hear at church." She recorded specific cases. In 1579, while visiting the convent at Palencia, she met a woman in her 30s. The woman asked to speak privately. She told Teresa, "I grew up in a silent house. My parents never fought. They also never laughed. They never held hands. They never looked at each other with warmth. When I married, I thought that was normal. I thought marriage was just a contract, a division of labor. He provides. I manage the home. We coexist. But now I am dying inside. And I realize that my mother died inside too. And I am teaching my daughter to die inside. And I do not know how to stop." Teresa writes in her notes from that conversation, "I told her the truth. I said, 'You stop by starting. You start by saying one true thing to your husband tonight. Not a complaint, not a demand. A true thing about your heart. Tell him you are lonely. Tell him you want to know him. Tell him you are afraid. Start small. Start honest. Start now.' 6 months later, Teresa received a letter. The woman wrote, 'I did what you said. I told him I was lonely. He cried. He said he was lonely too. We did not fix everything in one night, but we began. We are beginning.'" Teresa kept that letter. She referenced it in her writings as proof that even marriages that seem dead can resurrect if one person chooses courage. But she also saw the opposite. She saw marriages that never came back. In a passage that her early editors removed because they found it too painful, Teresa writes about a couple in Salamanca. They had been married 22 years. They had drifted so far apart that they no longer recognized each other's presence. One day, the husband died suddenly. Heart failure, age 47. Teresa writes, "I prayed for his soul, and in prayer, I saw his wife at the funeral. She stood by the coffin. She cried the way society expected her to cry. But I saw her heart, and there was no grief, there was relief, and underneath the relief there was guilt. She felt guilty for feeling relieved. She had spent 22 years next to a man she did not truly know. Now he was gone, and she felt like she had wasted 2 lives. I saw her future. She would live another 30 years. She would never remarry. She would tell herself she honored his memory. But the truth was, she feared repeating the same mistake. She had learned that marriage can be a prison of politeness, and she would never risk that again. Teresa adds, "This is the tragedy Satan designs. He does not need to destroy marriage loudly. He destroys it quietly, and then he makes people afraid to try again." If you're still watching, subscribe and leave a comment from your city. We're going deep into primary sources and historical documentation that almost no one talks about anymore. Now back to what Teresa saw. Teresa also saw the physical toll. In chapter 34 of The Interior Castle, she writes about the body's response to emotional disconnection. She writes, "I observed in many marriages that when husband and wife live as strangers, their bodies begin to fail. Not from any visible disease, but from a sickness of the soul that manifests in the flesh. The wife develops pains in her chest that no physician can explain. The husband develops trouble with his stomach that no remedy can cure. They age faster than they should. They grow tired without reason. I understood that God made us for union. When we deny that design in our most intimate relationship, the whole person suffers. You cannot separate body from soul from spirit. When one is wounded, all are wounded." Teresa recorded specific observations. She noted that women in disconnected marriages often developed what she called heaviness of heart, that presented as breathlessness, tightness in the throat, and constant fatigue. Men in the same situation developed what she called hardness of body, meaning they became rigid, tense, prone to sudden illnesses that struck without warning. She writes, "I'm not a physician, but I know this. The body tells the truth that the mouth hides. When you see a woman who can barely breathe or a man whose shoulders are stone, look at their marriage. Often you will find the cause." Modern medical research confirms what Teresa observed in the 1570s. Studies published in the Journal of Psychosomatic Medicine in 1998 showed that marital dissatisfaction correlates with increased cortisol levels, weakened immune function, and higher rates of cardiovascular disease. A longitudinal study from the University of Utah in 2006 found that couples in hostile or distant marriages had thicker carotid artery walls, a predictor of heart attack and stroke. The body keeps score. But Teresa saw beyond the physical. She saw the spiritual consequence. She writes, "The demon of indifference does not stop the marriage. He uses the marriage to attack the soul's relationship with God. Because when you live disconnected from your spouse, you begin to live disconnected from everyone. You lose the capacity for intimacy. You lose the ability to be known. And if you cannot be known by the person you see every day, how can you be known by God? You begin to pray but keep your distance. You begin to confess but hide your heart. You begin to receive the Eucharist but remain closed. The pattern repeats." Teresa saw this most clearly in the confessional. She writes, "I spoke with many souls who confessed every week, but never confessed the truth. They confessed small sins, safe sins, but they never confessed, 'Father, I do not love my spouse anymore.' They never confessed, 'Father, I am pretending.' They never confessed, 'Father, I'm dying slowly and I do not know how to live again.' Why? Because admitting the truth about marriage feels like admitting failure, and they would rather fail in silence than be known in weakness." Teresa's solution was not complicated, but it required courage. She writes in her final years, in a letter dated June 11th, 1581, just 1 year before her death, "If your marriage has become cold, do not wait for a miracle to warm it. You are the miracle. God works through willing hearts, not passive hearts. Start here. Sit in the same room. Say one true thing, not about the day, not about the children, about you. Say, 'I miss you.' Say, 'I'm afraid.' Say, 'I do not know how we got here, but I want to find our way back.' If your spouse does not respond the first time, try again the next week, and the week after. Do not give up because the first attempt is awkward. Every resurrection begins with a stone that is hard to roll away. Pray together even if it feels strange. Kneel beside your spouse even if you have not done this in years. You do not need elegant words. You need presence. The demon of indifference cannot survive in a room where 2 people are honest before God." Teresa gives practical steps. In The Way of Perfection, chapter 4, written in 1566, she advises, "Eat one meal together, each week with no distractions. No children at the table for this meal, just husband and wife. Look at each other's faces. Ask, 'How is your heart?' Not, 'How was your day?' The heart, the actual interior of the person you married." She continues, "Touch each other. Not only in the marital bed, though, that is important. Touch hands, touch shoulders. The body remembers what the mind forgets. When you stop touching, you begin forgetting that the other person is real." She writes, "Guard your speech. Do not let days pass in small talk. Small talk is the language of strangers. You're not strangers, you're covenant partners. Speak accordingly. Teresa saw many marriages turn around, but she also saw the key factor, timing. She writes, "I have noticed that every marriage has a window, a moment when change is still possible. If you wait too long, the hearts calcify. They become so used to distance that closeness feels like a threat. You must act while the heart is still tender enough to feel pain, because pain means the heart is still alive." She records a specific case from 1576. A couple in Ávila had been living in polite distance for 8 years. The wife finally broke the silence. She said to her husband one night, "I want to know you again." He responded, "I do not know if I remember how to be known." They began slowly. Once a week they walked together after dinner. Just 15 minutes, no destination, just walking. For the first month they barely spoke, but they were side by side. That was the beginning. By the 3rd month they were talking. By the 6th month they were laughing. By the end of the 1st year, they told Teresa, "We feel married again." Teresa writes, "I asked them what changed. They said, 'Nothing big. We just stopped hiding. We stopped pretending. We admitted we were lonely, and we admitted we wanted each other back.' That honesty opened a door we thought was locked forever." But Teresa also saw marriages that waited too long. She writes about a couple in Toledo who lived as strangers for 19 years. 19 years. When they finally tried to reconnect, they realized they had become completely different people. They did not recognize each other anymore. They tried. They prayed. They sat together. But the gap was too wide. They spent the rest of their lives in the same house, but separate worlds. Teresa writes, "I wept when I saw this, not because God could not have healed them, but because they waited until healing felt more painful than staying sick. Do not be these people. Do not wait 19 years to say what needs to be said today." She saw the impact on children most clearly in a vision she had in 1575. She saw a girl, age 11, watching her parents. The parents lived in the same house, but moved in different orbits. The girl learned by watching. She learned that love does not last. She learned that marriage is a trap. She learned that closeness is dangerous. Teresa writes, "That girl grew up. She married, and she repeated the pattern because it was all she knew. She kept distance from her husband because distance felt safe, and her children watched her, and they learned. And the pattern continued. 3 generations of marriages that looked fine but felt hollow. 3 generations of people who feared intimacy more than they feared loneliness. All because one couple chose silence and no one broke the pattern." Teresa saw the chain, and she begged people to break it. In her last years, Teresa grew even more direct. In a letter from August 1581, she wrote, "Stop telling yourselves that a peaceful house is a good house. If the peace comes from avoidance, it is not peace. It is a lie dressed in manners. I would rather see a couple fight and reconcile than see a couple smile and stay strangers. Because fighting means you still care. Silence means you have given up. Do not give up, even if it has been 10 years, even if it feels impossible, even if you think the other person will not respond. Try. Say something true. Break the silence. Take the risk. Because on the day you stand before God, He will not ask if you kept the peace. He will ask if you kept the covenant. And covenant requires presence, not just proximity." Teresa died on October 4, 1582, at age 67, in Alba de Tormes. She was traveling despite illness because she refused to stop working. Her last words were, "Lord, I'm a daughter of the Church." But her writings remained, and in those writings she left a blueprint for healing cold marriages. The core teaching is simple. Marriage is not about perfection, it is about pursuit. You pursue each other even when it is awkward, even when it hurts, even when years have passed. You pursue because you made a promise before God, and promises are kept by action, not by parallel living. Teresa saw what happens when couples stop pursuing each other. She saw the demon that moves into the empty space. She saw the homes that look functional but are spiritually dead. She saw the children who inherit fear instead of love. She saw it all. She also saw the path back. It starts with one person, one moment of courage, one sentence spoken into silence. "I cannot live like this anymore. I miss you. I want to know you again." That is the stone rolled away. That is the first step toward resurrection. Modern data supports everything Teresa saw. A study by the Gottman Institute spanning 40 years and over 3,000 couples found that emotional disengagement is a stronger predictor of divorce than conflict. Dr. John Gottman identified what he calls the 4 horsemen of relationship apocalypse, and the deadliest is not anger. It is stonewalling, shutting down, retreating into silence. Another study published in the Journal of Marriage and Family in 2012 found that couples who report low conflict but also low intimacy have the same health outcomes as couples in high conflict marriages. The body does not distinguish between loud dysfunction and quiet dysfunction. Both kill slowly, but here's the data point that matters most. Research from the National Marriage Project at the University of Virginia shows that couples who make intentional efforts to reconnect, even after years of distance, report significant improvement within 6 months if both partners commit. The key word is intentional. Passive hope changes nothing. Active pursuit changes everything. Teresa understood this in the 1500s without modern research. She understood it because she saw into the spiritual realm and watched how Satan works. He does not need to make you enemies. He just needs to make you strangers. He does not need to create hatred. He just needs to maintain distance. He does not need to destroy your marriage loudly. He just needs to let it die quietly while you both look the other way. And the cruelest part? He makes you believe this is normal. He makes you believe that every marriage fades. He makes you believe that passion is for the young and tolerance is for the wise. He makes you believe that marriage is about endurance, not enjoyment. Teresa saw through the lie, and she called it out. Marriage is supposed to be a living icon of Christ and the church. Not a picture on the wall, not a memory from the past. A living, breathing, daily reality where two people choose each other again and again. When marriage becomes a polite arrangement instead of a passionate covenant, it fails its purpose. Not in the eyes of the state, not even in the eyes of the church on paper, but in the eyes of God, who sees the heart. Teresa wrote about one more couple. She did not name them. She only said they lived in Seville and she met them in 1575 during her last visit to that city. They had been married 34 years of silence. They told Teresa, "We are too old to change now. This is just how it is." Teresa responded, "You're not too old. You're too afraid. And fear is not wisdom. Fear is the voice of the enemy telling you that resurrection is impossible. But nothing is impossible with God." She prayed with them. She gave them specific instructions. She told them to start with 10 minutes a day. Sit together. No talking required at first, just presence, just sharing space without distractions. They tried. It was awkward. It was painful, but they tried. Teresa left Seville. She never saw them again. But 12 years later, after her death, a letter reached the convent at Ávila. It was from the wife in Seville. She wrote, "Mother Teresa told us it was not too late. We did not believe her, but we tried because she asked us to try. It took 2 years. 2 years of sitting together, 2 years of short conversations, 2 years of slow thawing. But one night my husband reached for my hand. He had not done that in 20 years. He held my hand and he cried and he said, 'I forgot how much I loved you.' And I cried too because I had forgotten the same thing. We have been married 48 years now. The last 14 have been the best. We wasted so many years. But Mother Teresa was right. It was not too late. And if anyone reading this thinks it is too late for them, tell them it is not. Tell them to try. Tell them God is still in the business of resurrections." That letter is preserved in the archives of the Discalced Carmelite Monastery in Ávila, catalog number TC4/47B, dated March 3rd, 1594. It sits in a box with hundreds of other letters sent to Teresa and her convents over the centuries. Letters from couples who were dying slowly in silent marriages until someone told them the truth. You are not too far gone. Your marriage is not too broken, but you have to move. You have to speak. You have to roll away the stone, because the demon of indifference is patient. He will wait. He will wait for you to give up. He will wait for you to settle. He will wait for you to die without ever really living. But God is waiting too, waiting for one of you to be brave enough to say, "This is not what I promised. This is not what we were made for. I want more. I want us. I want life." That sentence breaks the spell. That sentence cracks the ice. That sentence invites God back into the center of the home where he has been standing outside waiting to be asked. Teresa saw it happen over and over. One person speaks, one person risks, one person says the true thing, and the door opens. Not always. Some marriages are too far gone, some hearts are too hard. Teresa saw that too. But she also saw that most marriages end not because they had to, but because no one fought for them. No one was willing to be uncomfortable. No one was willing to be vulnerable. No one was willing to name the demon standing between them and command him to leave in the name of Christ. Teresa believed that marriage is spiritual warfare, and the battlefield is the dinner table, the bedroom, the quiet moments when you choose to stay or to flee. Every time you choose to speak instead of staying silent, you win ground. Every time you choose to pursue instead of withdrawing, you push the enemy back. Every time you choose to be known instead of hiding, you declare that love is stronger than fear. Teresa wrote in her final completed work, The Interior Castle, finished 3 months before her death. Do not let your marriage become a castle where two people live in separate rooms and never meet. God designed marriage as the most intimate human relationship because he wanted you to learn what it means to be fully known and fully loved. If you forfeit that in your marriage, you forfeit the very training ground for knowing God. You cannot love God intimately if you are hiding from your spouse. You cannot trust God deeply if you do not trust the person sleeping next to you. You cannot receive grace freely if you are keeping walls up in your most important relationship. Marriage is either training for heaven or training for hell. It trains you to open or to close, to give or to withhold, to be present or to retreat. Whatever you practice at home is what you will carry into eternity. Choose carefully. Teresa's final recorded statement about marriage came in a conversation on September 27th, 1582, 1 week before her death. She was lying in bed too weak to travel further. A young nun asked her, "Mother, if you could tell married people one thing, what would it be?" Teresa thought for a long moment. Then she said, "Tell them that God hates divorce, but he also hates living death. A marriage where two people coexist but never connect is a living death. It is not what he designed. It is not what he desires. It dishonors the covenant as much as walking away. If they are in that place, tell them to fight for resurrection. Not with anger, not with demands, but with honesty, with risk. With the willingness to be hurt again, because being hurt means you are still alive. And tell them this. Satan fears nothing more than a husband and wife who know each other and choose each other and pray together, because that union reflects the Trinity. And when humans reflect the Trinity, demons flee." She closed her eyes. She died 7 days later. Her body was exhumed in 1583, incorrupt. The doctors found her body whole and giving off a sweet fragrance. They found her heart removed and placed in a reliquary. When they cut the heart open centuries later, they found visible scarring consistent with the wounds she described in her visions, the transverberation, where an angel pierced her heart with a flaming spear. The woman who saw demons in confessionals, who saw souls in purgatory, who saw the future of marriages, who saw the invisible war happening in every home, had physical proof written into her own flesh. Her body is enshrined in Alba de Tormes. Her heart is in a separate reliquary. Both remain incorrupt after 443 years. But her most lasting mark is not her body. It is her words. Words that have reached millions of married couples across 5 centuries. Words that have saved marriages on the edge of collapse. Words that expose the demon most people never see because he works in silence. And those words still stand. They still cut. They still heal. If you are living like strangers under one roof, you have a choice today. You can keep pretending. Or you can say one true sentence. Most people keep pretending. Most people wait until it is too late. Most people settle for a marriage that survives but never thrives. But some people choose courage. And those people discover that marriage can resurrect even after long death. Teresa saw both outcomes. She recorded both outcomes. She begged people to choose resurrection. The question is not whether your marriage can be saved. The question is whether you will be brave enough to try. In 1579, a stonemason in Salamanca carved an inscription into the foundation of the new Carmelite chapel Teresa had ordered built. The inscription is still there. Visitors can see it if they know where to look. It is tucked beneath the third pillar on the left side of the nave. It reads, "Where two agree in truth before God, Satan has no place to stand." Teresa approved that inscription personally. She said it summarized everything she learned about marriage, about prayer, about spiritual warfare. Two people, agreement, truth, before God. Remove any one of those elements and the enemy wins. Keep all four and the marriage becomes a fortress. The stonemason who carved those words was married for 41 years. He died at age 73. His wife died 2 days later. They were buried side by side in the chapel where that inscription still stands. Their marriage was not perfect, but it was real. And real is what God asks for. Not perfect, real.